Hey, brewery or small business owner. At the Beer Accountant, they understand the unique financial challenges of the craft brewing industry. Are you tired of navigating complex brewery accounting and taxes on your own? Staying up late working on financials and getting your finances in order after a whole workday? They're a CPA dedicated to helping breweries like yours thrive, with services ranging from qualified bookkeeping, business tax prep, to strategic financial planning. Stop wasting time on spreadsheets and focus on what you do best. Making great beer and running a small business, servicing over 50 breweries in 4 states. So if you own a brewery or small business, stop overpaying for reactive support and start being proactive with the Beer Accountant. Don't brew that IPA without this CPA. Visit beeraccountant.com to learn how their specialized expertise can help your brewery grow, profit, and succeed.
Are you a brewer looking to open, grow, or plan your next move? I'm Ted Zeller, liquor law attorney at Norris McLaughlin. I've spent my career working with breweries, helping them navigate the regulations that come with this industry at the municipal, county, state, and federal levels. From first permits to expansion into new markets, my team serves as legal counsel on licensing, compliance, and distribution. If you're ready to plan your next move or need legal guidance, I am here to help. Feel free to call me at 484-765-2220 or email me at tzeller@norris-law.com.
Us being able to launch the Beer Garden State campaign and that being our branding, welcome to the Beer Garden State, pouring from the Beer Garden State, drink from the Beer Garden State, that gives us, so many more opportunities to engage with consumers and also to engage with restaurants and bars, to engage with other legislators and, be able to kind of bring them into this community and be like, we have something here. We have impact and we want you to be part of it. We want you to join that community. So I think by giving it that kind of name, I shouldn't say it, I think, but like by giving it that kind of name, it gives it a purpose. Mm-hmm. And then, and it's just a beginning, like, a rebrand of a guild and, welcome to Beer Garden Street is great and it's fine. It's now the impact that we do afterward.
Welcome back to the Brew That Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum.
Hello. Go Sixers.
Go Sixers. Hopefully when this episode comes out, you guys are all hungover from the parade. But
yeah, you know what? You're right.
It's going to be a long time. Might be next season. But today we welcome on Brie Devlin.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
The Brewers Guild of New Jersey.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So we just said we might be related. Devlin, Tevlin. At some point, we were like probably 10 generations ago. I think Tevlins used to be Devlins.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Pull you into the Devlin road.
Yeah. It's been a long time, but I think that when we like the Tevlins, when we look back, it like used to be Devlin, I think.
Like, oh, really? Oh, like actually.
A thing?
Yeah. It was like, I think it was...
I didn't know.
Yeah. I was like, I like this idea.
No, like Tevlin, and then it was like... Because people... There's way more Devlins than there are Tevlins.
Okay, that's fair. So we were the first Tevlin I've met.
Oh, yeah.
So, it also makes you a little bit more special than a Devlin.
There's one other Tevlin in New Jersey. His guy was like an All-American lacrosse player.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know anything about him. But, and then obviously I have family in New Jersey named Tevlin, but that's it. All right, but enough Tevlin talk. So what are we drinking right now? What is this? You have alternate endings. We just had alternate endings on, so glad you brought that in.
As I say, we got a mix of Jersey beers here.
Yep.
So some from Tonewood. We've got Wild Air, alternate ending, Aberdeen, Wild Air's in Asbury Park, and I've got Tonewood, which they have Oakland and Barrington as locations. So
yep,
bit of a mix here.
Shout out Eli and the team. We're just with them at Warwick Farms today, so nice to see you brought that in. They crushed it.
Didn't even know either.
Yeah,
it was out.
Beautiful brew house there. Cool. So, how did you get into beer? I guess.
So it's funny. When I was 21, I was bartending at Bonefish Grill in Pine Brook, New Jersey, and Magnify was the closest brewery there. They had opened up at some point within my when I'd started there. And I remember hearing of a brewery, and it's very funny now working in breweries for, almost 10 years and working with brewers. I remember being 21 and being like, I I could open a brewery. I'm like, that sounds like fun. How easy would that be to do? And like, what a cool career. Oh yeah, well, I was sorely mistaken, so I ended up working at them instead. But yeah, so I found out about Magnify. You know, they had a pretty good craft beer program, surprisingly, for being a chain restaurant. And then I got into craft beer that way. My friend Ryan was a bartender. I think Forgotten Boardwalk was like their funnel cake beer. Was the one that I'd order out when I'd sit at a bar.
They just opened up, or they're opening up a
soda. I don't want to
something on the boardwalk.
Yeah, and I think they're doing it in either Bradley Beach or Asbury Park. I just saw this at that.
It's not alcohol. It's just soda.
No, yeah, I think
it's like craft soda, I believe.
yeah. Which is great. I can't wait to see how that comes out.
Totally agree with that. As we know, everyone that listens to this knows I hate NA beer, but I think that other like non-alcoholic beverages that aren't just like malt water are a good idea. So I like the idea of like trying to make artisanal sodas.
Said a Tevlin approval there.
Yeah, stamp of approval.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I that's kind of how I started, at least, knowing what was different than me drinking the Miller High Life that I was drinking at the bar when I was, in my early 20s. And then, my friend worked at a general store out in Long Valley. And she's like, hey, I was, dropping some of my dad's menus off. There's this brewery. She's like, I think you'd be a really good fit to, because I was looking for a job. I wanted to kind of get away from like traditional bartending. And it was Czig Meister Brewery in Hackettstown, New Jersey. And I went there and went to the owner. I'm like, listen, I think you needed me. And they're like, well, because it was difficult at the time because I was working at a restaurant. It wasn't clear if you could work at a restaurant and also work at a brewery in New Jersey at the time. Because of the tier laws.
Yep.
As I'm sure we're going to touch on a lot lot of the laws.
Even as an employee?
Even as an employee, because of at the time, what's the word for it? Like the
ABC?
Not the ABC. It's more just like the public perception of working at both a brewery and a restaurant. At the time, it was just like muddy waters. So it was about a month of me texting the owner being like, hey, did you talk to your lawyer yet? Because he wanted to make sure that it was okay if I could work there.
When I started my brewery, the POSB said I could not work as a bartender.
Yeah, because they were worried about influencing the taps. Like, so, because breweries and restaurants were trying to figure out at the time their relationship together, and they didn't want, any brewery employee influencing their product on a restaurant or a bar. And so, it was kind of halfway through, like, it was maybe like 2 weeks later, and I kept texting the owner. I was like, hey, ready to start whenever you're ready to have me. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll get around to it. And then it was a Friday. I remember this. It was a Friday morning, and they had a bartender call out. And I got a text from the owner saying, hey, I just got in touch with my lawyer. It turns out it looks like you're okay to work at the brewery. Could you be here today at 4:00?
Oh my God.
And I was like, I did not. This was a different restaurant that I worked at. And I was like, I was ready to get out of there. And
do you think he even talked to the lawyer? He was just like, fuck it, I need somebody.
I mean, I'm cool with either way.
Yeah.
Listen, ask for forgiveness on permission. And so I texted him back. I'm like, I'll be there at 3:45. And then 2 months later, became the bar manager. And then about 5 years into me working there, I developed their marketing program. So. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Marketing, you're talking about like mostly social media stuff?
Social media, digital marketing is where it kind of started. And then, as time went on and more, I didn't have to kind of split my time between taproom and social media.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of work more with doing sponsorships and, fully developing like a marketing department for them.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my start into the industry.
So how did you get involved in the Brewers Guild?
So a very dear friend of mine, Alexis Deegan, she was the executive director of the Brewers Association. So I'm sure we'll touch on that later. There was one entity, and then there were two, and then it came back together.
Yes.
So this was one of the entities. And, I remember just seeing what she was doing, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And it's like, it's cool, but like, it's all work going. Yeah. But never really thought about it, of it being like a serious thing. And then back in late 2023, is when I started volunteering with the guild. So, they had a marketing committee and they weren't doing any marketing at the time. So I hopped on board for that for a while. It wasn't really going anywhere. I was like, all right, I'm doing this and we're here an hour every week, guys, and we have not moved anything forward. So I stepped back and I'm like, call me when you're ready.
Yeah.
And then, we had a huge turnover in regulations that happened in late 2024, which were great for breweries. A lot of feats that, we were working.
If you had Eric Orlando on, and he talked all about all the sweeping changes that happened.
Yeah, and I mean Eric's my partner, in this. He's I always say he's the heart, or he's the head, and I'm the heart. You need both in order to really function as a guild.
Yeah.
So I've learned just so much from him over the last couple of years. But yeah, so we had back in 2020, where all these regulations changed over, and both the guild and the association were like, why are we not, why aren't we working together? Like we're fighting for the same things, but separately. So maybe it would just make sense if we did it under one umbrella. And when they made the decision, they're like, all right, we probably should, have somebody steering us to making movements and making changes. So I got a call from the president at the time, and he's like, the president of the guild, not America, the president of the guild. And he's like, hey, I don't know if you want this job, but it's there for you. And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. I was like, I've worked enough for it, and here I am a year.
Yeah, right.
And a half later almost. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, June will be a year and a half, which is crazy. I know.
Yeah, with like one guild, you guys are probably able to make way more of a difference.
Yeah, well, it's also one of the biggest parts of this industry, and I think it's a huge labor of love that everyone can feel. So when you are able to get everyone in the same room, because it's very hard to do, having everyone back together makes having those conversations a lot easier, and everyone has the same pain points. So it's like, all right, well, now let's get together more often so that we can figure out our next path forward.
Oh, so the legislators are like, well, who should we listen to? It's like there's two groups telling us two different things. Like, well,
why would you? But also, too, why why would you really want to fight for an industry that's fighting each other? Yeah. So but
that's what is happening. The THC drinks.
So THC's
but in PA, that's what's happening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
there's legislative groups there's groups that are trying to change the legislature, but there's different groups that are trying to do it different ways.
Yeah.
So there's like no alignment, and they're making no progress because.
Tell them to call New Jersey. Tell them that we can give them for their 5 years down the line, be like, just try to get together and make it easier on everybody in the future. But yeah, no, and the THC argument, it just feels like every day, because on a federal level, it's one thing, and then try to figure it out state by state, Yeah. Kind of just, for right now, we're folding off on commenting.
Yeah, so the Brewers meeting is like the same way. Like, and I think what everyone agrees is like, all right, it is going to be legal. It makes the most sense for the alcohol brands to be in charge of it, but they're not going to stick their neck out and get roped in with this nonsense that can't even figure itself out.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's no decision on it. Like, it is imposing on the alcohol producers. So why would the alcohol producers try to then fight for it? They have to get it in there, and then the alcohol can just kind of adopt it. But
right, and we kind of we take the stance of wherever it ends up. If it becomes legal and what liquor stores, bars are able to carry, breweries should just have a good shot at being able to participate in it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I know. That's a fight I feel like I'm always watching unfold every day. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen by the end of the year? So
yeah. So what is kind of your day to day as an executive director? I mean, you said you're kind of the heart of it. So are you not involved this much in the legislature stuff? You're kind of planning, getting everybody together, actually creating the guild itself?
So in terms of the day-to-day of the legislative stuff, no, I'm not. I'm more involved in knowing what's going on. Okay. So I'm involved, as different bills are proposed that might affect the guild. Mm-hmm. I'm getting emails daily, sometimes multiple times a day. They're like, hey, we should at least, keep an eye on this.
Is that guild members are doing that, or is that Eric?
It's mainly Eric in his office. Okay. Yeah. Because they've got a good team that their responsibility is keeping their eye on it.
Yeah.
And letting us know what we need to be aware of. Eric's. I could say a million good things about Eric because he's just such a wonderful person to know. I'm like, you're handling everything, and I trust you to do so. And then after once it comes to me and our board, Then we also move to the legislative committee. So then there's, decisions by brewery owners, sometimes even brewery that are sitting on the committees, brewery workers that are like, hey, I want to have, let you know how we feel about this so that when language is put forward, it's representative of as many people as possible. So, yeah.
Nice. So what, I don't know. I know that you don't want to talk about it, but the difference between the two groups and like why they came together. Like,
so at the time,
was there one specific issue or was it like just personal infighting politics?
I wasn't. So the one thing I always say when I talk about this is I wasn't, we're talking, I was probably 22 a year or two into my so I'm like, why are you guys fighting? But now that I've been in the industry for, almost 10 years,
I understand.
I have a much
Also
different, I have a much different, point of view on the whole thing. No, I mean, it's hard, right? Because especially in New Jersey, beer is such a young industry. 2015, 2016 is when that big boom of breweries were able to operate and pour in their tap rooms. Mm-hmm. So, as opposed to before, they were able to fill a growler, maybe offer a sample or two, but outside of that, they weren't able to serve a pint of beer to their customer. So, a lot of that kind of predates me. So you have like this huge boom in 2015 to like 2017 where I, can't remember the number exactly, but I want to say somewhere between like 60 to 80 breweries where they're opening or starting to make plans to open. So, you had a lot of people like the larger breweries that had kind of where they thought the industry in our state was going. And then a lot of the new, I don't want to call them new players, but like a bunch of new players that came in and everyone's trying to figure out where they sit with the regulations. And obviously when you're a little bit more established, you have a bigger production system, your interests may be different than others. And I think that at the end of the day, in my opinion, the guild's responsibility or the association or whatever the entity is should represent all of you, and I think that it's just, until you have almost like a neutral person that's like, hey, all of these things are important. We just like, it's like one of these, a victory for one of these things, even though it might not be the best for you, is a win for the industry overall. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, it was trying to rebuild that mentality when I think that probably was a huge part of the split is being like, well, my brewery does this and this is what I need to push forward. And there's a lot of smaller breweries that are like, at the time, they're like, we want to be able to have TVs, and like, which is also important, even though it sounds so small. So it was just trying to find that middle ground of, all of your interests are important, and we need you need people that are going to work to do both of those things to make a full guild. That's why I always go back to like the head and the heart thing. Where I'm like, for so long the guild had like the head, the brain, and that was great. But there's some breweries that's the quiet work. When you have the quiet work going on, it's hard to get people to like understand that, there are other things that you're doing. So when you have more consumer facing stuff or other industry facing stuff or other member facing stuff, it's easier for people to be like, okay, we see what you're doing. So it kind of lets like the wheel in the background kind of keep turning.
Yeah.
It's just like the prisoner's dilemma. It's like if everyone's just looking out for themselves, then it's hard to operate. The whole point of the guild is that you come together.
Yeah. I mean, we're a nonprofit. You know what I mean? Our job is to, support the breweries in whatever way that we can.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know the answer to this, but can you explain to the listeners, what are some of the things that you guys are doing or starting up? I know the conference in Jersey, that's one source of education, but then you have a bunch of other events that you are constantly putting on.
Yeah. So I, again, like I had said, but it started in January 2025 as the executive director. I'm also part-time. That's one thing that I always let people know. I'm very part-time. But, I have a lot of love for this industry. So, I don't mind putting in the extra hours. But yeah, so last year we actually hosted our first conference that you were at and you came and hung out with us. Actually worked with me. So thank you for that. But yeah, no, so we hosted our first conference in the state. Yeah. So it was our inaugural conference and we hosted it in Hackettstown. We worked with craft beer professionals to do our previous one and our upcoming one that is happening in August. And yeah, it was, the first of something like that in our state. I think.
And what was the conference like? It was like people coming in doing speeches and.
Yeah, so it was a 2-day conference with a welcome party the night before, and we had, we had speakers fly in from all over the country. Some from, I think we had like 1 or 2 people from even out of country.
Cool.
Which was awesome. And then, we had speakers, we had vendors, in different suppliers. But that was, I think, the biggest takeaway from the conference after hearing people's feedback, because it's our first time doing it. You know? We want to make sure that this is something that's going to benefit breweries in every way. And, the feedback what we got after the conference ended was overwhelming. Like, everyone had a great time, which I, I'm a host by nature. So I feel like I'm like, is everyone having fun? But yeah, so, hearing that feedback and people being like, it's just nice for all of us to be in the same room. And I'm like, that, all of the other stuff at the end of the day, it wasn't about if it made the guild money or if it, obviously getting traction in the industry is important, but like getting everyone in the same room for me as somebody who's been a peer for so long, that was the biggest takeaway. Is like, that's what people wanted. People were looking for that because it is such a community-based industry. And I think in New Jersey, we haven't had that opportunity that often. So,
and how many members are there of the guild?
So in the guild, we have about, right now, we're luckily adding on a bunch of new members right now. So
nice.
But we have about 67 members at the moment.
Out of how many? So
there's 167 breweries and brew pubs in the state. And brew pubs are kind of, some of them see interest in joining the guild because they're more brewery focused. Some of them don't, which, I understand. So we're working on bumping that number up. Most states kind of average above about 50% of their of guild members in there. I think the average when we just got a benchmark survey done, and it was about 70% of breweries were members. So that's always my goal. And since we've started, our membership has increased exponentially. Our trade partners have increased exponentially because now it's nice for people to see that the guild in New Jersey is doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, is your next, like, when you took over, have you seen growth as far as memberships goes? Was it hard to convince people like, hey, we're combining? Were people like, dude, I'm not getting involved with this. This is like some other thing that you guys are trying to switch this up again? Or did people kind of jump on right away? Like, all right, this is a stronger guild.
Somewhere in the middle. I'd say somewhere in the middle. It's like there's 2 parts to this question because like there's one, I was very lucky, and I think the guild, if there's any pats on the back I can give myself, and it's just based on time, is I think the guild having somebody that was a peer for so long, for 8 years. I always would joke with people, I'm like, you guys wanted me to work for you for so long, and now I'm working for all of you, so let's make this happen. But no, it's one of those things where I think because it was somebody that they knew I'd like to think that they trusted in the industry. Yeah. That's like, hey, the work that I do. I'm like, that I've been in this industry for so long, I don't quit. And like, I want to make cool things happen. Oh, sorry, you told me no tapping. That's sorry. We're like, you've trusted me as your peer. Like, what I do for the breweries that the brewery that I worked for and my place in the industry. So trust that I was like, trust me and then trust the guild. So that was like a big part of when I was ramping things up where I'm like, I get it. I think that's also a thing too, that, as somebody who's in like a leadership position, saying to people like, hey, yeah, your grievances are valid. I watched it, as somebody who was a brewery employee, and, it's going to take trust and it's going to take time. And honestly, I think in this last year, I'm very happy to see that the breweries that, took a chance on me, essentially, see the benefits now and are excited about being involved. So, I think, we've seen a huge growth in membership. And I honestly, we're getting more people reaching out about joining the guild too, which for me is exciting. It makes me happy to be like, hey, can I hang out with you for a little bit and talk to you about what we're doing? So it's nice seeing that people see the value before I have to bring it to them. So,
what are the main things that you guys are working on right now? Is it different legislative stuff, or is it like events you guys are putting on?
So early in, like I'd probably say February was a little bit quiet. We're kind of in a quieter legislative period in Jersey. There are a lot of things that we're also in an administration change. Okay. With the trying to figure out where the ABC is going to kind of land.
With the new governor?
With the new governor, yeah. Just because we don't know who the next permanent director of the ABC is going to be.
Right now, does that change every single time there's a new governor?
It doesn't necessarily. It can. You know what I mean? It depends on the administration and what they're looking to do. So we're, you know, a lot of the things that we've been talking about internally in terms of more legislative stuff, we've had conversations about things that don't directly affect us, but obviously everyone knows the World Cup is happening in New Jersey, and that whole debacle, for a kind word, to kind of call it, with the way that things are shaking up. So, you know, we've been engaging our members, and luckily for, you know, us, I mean, it's still unfortunate, but like luckily for us, only one of our members is going to get affected by the potential of surcharges and stuff like that. So we've been working with them to figure out how we can kind of, you know, talk with PR firms and get their message out there to why, you know, businesses like this, small businesses, are getting affected.
Surcharges for what? For public transportation?
Well, a lot of it had to do with hotels. There were certain, and again, this is something that Eric's a little bit more well-versed on than I am, but, you know, there are certain surcharges in terms of taxes that they wanted to add on for small businesses that are in the area. But yeah, no, so outside of that, you know, there's, we just had a lot of, at the end of 2025, we were working with the ABC a lot and got 80% of the asks that we were.
Did you really?
For, yeah.
So what is that? What does that like then translate to? Because I think the last time we talked also, I'm like trying to think, where were the state of the beer laws, basically probably when like Eric came on or any of the people from Jersey, where I'm always curious to know like what are the current pain points and like what are you guys like working on that side right now?
I mean, a lot of the pain points do come back to, and why we're doing so much promotion of the industry itself is figuring out our place when we want to be talking with restaurants and want to be working with, and how we can show restaurants that we're of benefit. You know what I mean? Like, breweries are a benefit to restaurants and bars, which New Jersey at this time doesn't have that mentality, I'd say. Mostly, I shouldn't say. There's so many, you know, restaurants and bars in the state that see the value of craft beer and want to promote it and see, you know, you look at states like Pennsylvania and New York, and obviously you guys have your own, I'm sure you have your own pain points, but, you know, it's saying like, okay, we're looking at to see what they do. How can we all sit down at a table? And, you know, our industries are not exactly all up and up. I think across the board, you know, whether restaurant, bar, brewery, winery, we're all seeing the same declines right now, the same issues, the same costs of materials and ingredients. So for me, especially, I should say right now, it's working with these other industries and saying, we need to sit down at the same table outside of advisory meetings, outside of all of that, and figure out how we can improve the relationship between breweries and restaurants in New Jersey. So that's like a big focus of mine right now.
Yeah.
A lot of what there were a couple things that were presented to us. I want to say it was August, September of last year. The ABC kind of were like, hey, here's some regulations. And we're like, whoa. Wait a second. There's a lot in here that feels like it's undoing a lot of what we, you know, had pushed for over the last like two years. And so that was a couple months of back and forth. Eric was definitely, Eric was worked for you know, as much as he could. But yeah, so there's a lot of different avenues too, right? Because there's contracting stuff, which is like a lot of the behind the scenes that only some breweries can, you know, really benefit for. So that's, you know, if a brewery doesn't necessarily have a tap room but want to sell distribution, they can partner with breweries in our state to essentially contract brew on their system and get product out there that's safe, clean, you know, reputable, whatever. So there were a lot to do there. A lot of taproom stuff. You know, it's the silly things, right? Like, you know, us being able to define
What a live event is.
A live event. Luckily, that's something that we didn't have to fight as much this time. That was a huge thing in 2024.
Okay.
This time around, a lot of it was, you know, one of the things, again, I always bring up like the very small thing because you're like, why are you complaining about that? And I'm like, well, but if you see how small it gets, then you understand how regulated breweries in our state are.
Yeah.
So, you know, for instance, having you know, this beer here, if I wanted, was like, hey, get me a lime with it, that would be considered an adulterated beverage. So, you know, adding a lime to this beer, you'd no longer be able to serve this beer at a brewery because it would be an adulterated beverage because you added a slice of lime to it. So, and for us, the biggest thing that we were looking for was clarity. Is as long as if you tell us all of the regulations that we have and we can read them as clear as day and not have to be like up to our interpretation.
Yeah.
that would make my job so much easier too, because I'm sometimes scared if a brewery will ask me something and they're like, can we do this or can we not? And in a lot of the ways that I'll read it, I'll be like, yes. There might be one person that might read that same rule or regulation and be like, no. But so we just want to, it's black and white, it's black and white for our breweries to be able to operate, and then they can figure out how they could thrive in their own tap rooms.
It sounds like the tactic of like the restaurant association when all these things got rolled out was put as many landmines in as possible so that you guys have to literally fight for this when like does alignment beer actually matter, but you have to spend time doing this instead of like trying to like get food in the tap room.
Yeah, and the food in the tap room thing that's going to be, I could see that one being a few years.
That's the biggest. Is that the biggest thing? The food in the tap room. That turns your tap room into a restaurant, which is the whole thing, right?
Right, and that goes more into the licensing of stuff. I think a lot of our breweries would say that it's probably like a huge priority. Some of ours wouldn't. There's so many opinions, just kind of. The way that New Jersey already does just our licensing for like bars and restaurants, and then the limited brewery licenses, and then brew pub licenses, that we are just such a regulated state in all of these different avenues that it's again, like what I said before, it's going back to these restaurants and bars. So like, well, I bought this $1 million liquor license, and you're opening a production brewery for what feels like pennies to them at that. And it's trying to navigate the conversation in a way where we put trust in them to put trust in us. To like, that's not like, this should be symbiotic. We should be able to work together. So, that's a huge priority of mine. I've actually been I've been working with Devin Perry, who's she's pretty much the me of the Wine Growers Association, but she's been doing it much longer than I have. And she's wonderful. And her and I have been having a lot of conversations, and her and I come from the same mind of, we're not having the conversations at the same table, and we need to be. Otherwise, we're just going to keep fighting with each other.
Would you guys ever combine guilds like that? Like, is there a distillery or a cidery?
So combine? No.
Yeah.
Combine. Well, I shouldn't say hard no. That's something that hasn't been talked about, I should say.
Yeah.
So there's no representation right now for cideries and meaderies in the state.
Yeah.
There's not many, right? That doesn't, so there's a conversation that we're having there where it's like, okay, how can we engage cideries and meaderies that do follow closely under what we represent, versus like wine. So wine is a completely different set of rules than what we can do. Mm-hmm. Like wineries are able to have satellite tap rooms. So, there might be a winery that has where they grow their grapes and produce, but then they're able to open 12 satellite tap rooms throughout the state where they, and some of them will have actual tasting rooms. Some of them will, license out a BYOB, and they are the wine that you can buy at the BYOB. So that's why when you go to some BYOBs in New Jersey, and they have wine for you to buy, that's because that winery, even if they're not located in the state, which is a little tricky thing there, they are a reseller of that winery's wine.
Are wineries allowed to sell food?
No, they could sell. Sorry, what I was saying. No, they're able to sell like de minimis snacks like we are. So cheese boards, but they have to be like prepackaged. It's very rare that you'll go to a winery and you can just go up and they'll make you something.
Are there ways around it? Like, are breweries doing stuff where they get like basically like I'm sure there's a company that could just make like prepackaged adult like airport meals that are high quality.
So
right?
It's funny that you bring this up because right now, and I'm not going to give you a definitive answer because right now what we're trying to do, we've been approached by an alternative food vendor company without making it sound too weird, but maybe that'll be some good clickbait there.
Protein bug bars or something.
Yeah. Was it calcium bars? But no, that we are trying to get clarification that could open up the conversation about things like that because it's kind of a gray area. But so ideally, once we hear back about this one vendor that I can't elaborate more because I honestly don't know if I should. But yeah, so it's we're hopefully gonna have a better idea of where that lands.
Yeah.
This year, because it's hard to say. You know, it's all open to interpretation. So
I mean, I think that's how a lot of things then become law, is people like kind of skirt around the law, and then legislatures either start doing them themselves or see other people doing it and like realize it's not that bad. Like the whole weed drink stick started like that, where it was like the fall bill, they accidentally legalized marijuana, and then everyone realized like, oh wait, but this is the same thing. You guys just skirted around as well, so let's just make it legal.
yeah. Listen, I'm like, let's make everyone's life a little bit easier right now. We're all just trying to get by.
And screw the legislature. Let's just break the law.
No comment.
Very cool. Speaking,
Yeah.
not from me, from the New Jersey brewer perspective, but
But yeah, no, it's it just feels like everything, you know. I will say the one thing I do want to like leave that this specific part of the talk is I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
The conversations that we're having now feel more progressive, you know, in terms of us working with the ABC.
also you guys are getting more changes happening faster and faster.
Oh, and it's also just
can build off
willing
that.
to have conversations with us too. I think that's been a huge thing. I mean, a big thing for us has been permitting, you know, with breweries and when they want to, you know, have a beer garden elsewhere or extend their premises. And, you know, the ABC has expressed interest in being like, listen, we want, you know, to at least try to make this easier for you and your brewery. So can we form a committee where it's, you know, people that do these events a lot to figure out what is best for them? Which I think is great. Any conversation, I love to chat this girl, and I think conversations are important, especially for this industry.
What do you guys have any regulations that are tighter as far as like beer festivals or anything? Because I know the AC Beer Festivals has been like one of the biggest in the area for many years, and you guys do the one on the Battleship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not. I mean, the only thing that I could say that I'd say that the tightest thing around it that goes back to the guild is, you know, for instance, we could have the guild can as a nonprofit, the guild can pull permits per year to have beer festivals, right? That breweries can't themselves. So like if a brewery, let's say your neighborhood brewery, wants to have 15 of their friends, it has to be 15, it can't be any less. But if they want to have 15 of their brewery friends, you know, host a beer festival at their brewery, they can do that through like people like me because we're a nonprofit and can do this. Now, where it gets a little tight is obviously the entrances can't be the same. It would have to be a brewery that has outdoor space that they could, you know, pull a permit on or license out. So there can be no...
Can they profit from it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, profiting is fine. And that's what, you know, when I always let breweries that, you know, that are members or even non-members know, I'm like, if this is something that you ever wanted to talk about, talk to us about it, because we can help you do things like this.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about how involved or not involved you want the guild to be. Because then obviously, you know, that's how much it benefits the guild or how much it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, my background, again, being in marketing and brewery events, I'm like, I've got a pretty good template here. If you don't, you know, that we can go off of. But yeah, so, I mean, yeah, beer festivals they're, believe it or not as heavily regulated. I mean, they're definitely regulated, but they're
restaurants
not
aren't
as
coming after them. That's like,
no, because I think it's a different thing. It's a different audience. It's who, you know, I think that for restaurants, and again, I'm not speaking for restaurants, but from my understanding, all of it comes back to is a brewery that does trivia nights or does live music or all of these different things. I, as a restaurant, am also doing these things, but my back end spend is so much more. When I think that there's a different conversation needs to be had, you know what I mean? There's other things that, you know, we can differentiate the two between, you know? But yeah, so restaurants don't care that much about beer festivals, which is good. You know, we've got one thing, but there's still always conversations happening around them.
You just recently like rebranded like the guild into like the beer garden state, right? So what was the idea behind that? The garden state, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Like
it started with Garden State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a passion project of mine for the last 6 months, and we're still the guild. It's still the Brewers Guild of New Jersey. It's just our promotional campaign for beer in the state, and that's not just members. Like I said, this is a campaign for beer all across the state. You know, I mean, obviously, I want as many members to join as possible because what we can do together is so much greater than we can if we're apart. But you know. us being able to launch the Beer Garden State campaign and that being our branding welcome to the Beer Garden State, pouring from the Beer Garden State, drink from the Beer Garden State, that gives us, so many more opportunities to engage with consumers and also to engage with restaurants and bars, to engage with other legislators and, be able to kind of bring them into this community and be like, we have something here. We have impact and we want you to be part of it. We want you to join that community. So I think by giving it that kind of name, I shouldn't say it, I think, but like by giving it that kind of name, it gives it a purpose. And then, and it's just the beginning, like, a rebrand of a guild and, welcome to Beer Garden State is great and that's fine. It's now the impact that we do afterward. And how we engage all these different industries and how we talk to consumers and how we have a lot on the horizon. But this is our first step. We're we're a nonprofit. We don't have a lot of money. So, doing things like this and talking with people like you that already have an interest in what we do and letting you letting me into your community, me letting you into ours. It's, we're really operating word of mouth here right now.
Yeah.
And then we can grow. There's cooperative marketing grants that we're going for. There's, just different even sponsorship opportunities that we're looking into to see how we can get this out there and have the biggest impact. Yeah.
What's the do you guys have Visit New Jersey or anything like that?
Yeah, so that's the next phase of our we've been having conversations with destination marketing organizations, CMOs like the Visit New Jersey, Visit South Jersey, even countywide. So the way that I have our membership spread up is each brewery I have with their closest or direct marketing organization, so that when we do need to, as we roll things out in the future, especially as it gets a little bit more localized, we're able to engage with them and make them part of it and get their backing and their support, because ultimately it'll all come back into the state of New Jersey and the money that we're all trying to make, for this specific type of industry.
Yeah. And how do you guys raise money? Is that member funds or is that
so a lot of it is membership dues right now.
Okay.
We actually have this year the most consumer facing fundraising that we've been doing. I'm actually the most excited. It's New Jersey's first time doing it. June 4th is New Jersey Pint Day.
Cool.
And so there are over 30, I think it's 34 breweries across the state that will have our limited edition pint glasses. And we had a local designer who actually designs Twin Elephant Brewing Company in Chatham's labels.
Cool.
He did our first glass for our inaugural year, a word that I'm not good at saying. And this year the theme was Cultivate the Garden State. So, leaning into what we already knew that we were going to do with the Garden State branding. The glass is awesome. I should have brought one now, hindsight, but it's got the state bird. It's got all of the produce that we brew in the state, hops. It's a gorgeous glass. I'm very happy about it. So the cool thing about that glass is the breweries themselves don't have to donate directly to the guild. They're able to, all the profits that they make from the glass, they get to keep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we worked with Belter, Beverages of the Glassware Company.
Yeah.
They approached, this is something that they started out in Colorado with the Colorado Brewers Guild. And Belter donates $1 from every glass that's ordered directly to the guild. So it's a nice way that obviously it's a fundraiser for the guild based on the amount of glasses that were sold, but also it's a good way for breweries to, get people in on a Thursday night where maybe they wouldn't see that and see, a bump in sales. And it's a way for them to, make some money off this glass too. So I'm really excited.
Visit Bucks County does the sweatshirts and the t-shirts?
Yeah, for the Ale Trail.
I've seen
Yeah.
Yeah, at every single beer fest, there's always somebody wearing one
Oh,
of
yeah.
those.
Yeah. Oh, well, and like I said, we're just getting started. Right now, we're, a very small team. It's me and, running the membership promotional side of things. And then it's Eric, but Eric's, his job is solely just legislative.
Do you do the social media?
I do now. Yes. I took that over about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a month ago. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing that for the last month. My background's in social media marketing, so it kind of just made sense. But yeah, so with the rebrand, it kind of transitioned me into taking all that over. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just mostly just promoting New Jersey brewery stuff?
Yeah, so we have we're talking to four audiences, right? We're talking to consumers, we're talking to breweries, we're talking to employees, and we're talking to legislators.
That's a ton.
Yeah, so it's probably the hardest part about it is being like, okay, what voice am I talking in today? But also still making sure that it makes sense and it fits the brand.
Yep.
And what we're doing. So it's knowing the first step is knowing that you have four different people that you're trying to engage and talk to. Because we're still so new and developing, we're really now being able to gauge our analytics with everything. Like, who is seeing our content the most? Like, who's engaging with our content most? But, Shawnee, who's the executive director in Colorado, when they had done their first audit, the one thing that she realized, most of the people that were engaging with their content were brewers themselves, not owners, but specifically head brewers and brewers. So, she was able to kind of tailor their content to that. So, I'm, now that we're kind of really in the beginning stages of it, I'm interested to see who is the most interested in our content. But I think right now we're engaging a lot more with consumers than we ever have, which I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I don't know if there's just way more brewers and head brewers than owners, or
I think owners don't have time. I mean, not that brewers or head brewers have time either. I just think that I think owners are spend their entire day and night worrying about the brewery as it is. And they're like, I think I could probably take a break from reading about more beer on my phone. But I always use myself as a good example. Like, I wasn't an owner of a brewery, and I took interest in the guilds, pretty early on. And I think that there are so many more of people like me in this industry that don't know that there are ways for them to get involved and don't know that there's different ways for them to support. So that's a huge focus of mine for the rest of the year too.
Yeah, I think also as an employee, when you go to a conference where they are talking about the business side of it, and profits and everything, and these restrictions, it gives you a different perspective of the owners of this is why we're doing some stuff.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it's a labor. Like I said, it's a labor of love. I think everyone wants to get rich off of it one day, but it's the passion that keeps you going. So, yeah. I always say I hate that I love this industry so much. I really do, but I do. I show up. So,
how is your CBC being back? So, for the listeners, Brie is from Jersey. We're in Jersey. Actually.
So I'm in Hackettstown, New Jersey. So I'm about So I'm about 2 hours from here. Yeah. So it's Northwest Jersey, and then.
So you're rooting for the Knicks?
No.
No?
It depends who's in front of me. That's what I'll root for. I'm a good saleswoman.
Nice. But yeah, you've had a lot of Philly in the past 2 weeks because of CBC, and this is after. But so what did you guys do for CBC? Did the guild do something? I thought I saw some sort of bus tour you guys were doing.
Yeah. We it was awesome. It was a ton of fun. The Sunday before CBC, CBC this year, have you been to CBC outside? I know.
No.
Right, because it's never on our coast.
Yeah, this was my first.
Oh,
I know Richie's done it.
I've been to one other one.
You've been to one other one. So this year they had changed the schedule a bit. I mean, I'd only been to the one previously in Indianapolis, so I didn't know. It was hard to kind of gauge when people were going to be coming into town. There were so many events that were happening Monday and Tuesday night that I couldn't even keep up. But so the Sunday before I looked at the schedule, I'm like, all right, there's not too much going on. And I was like, there's going to be, different trade members that are coming in, industry partners that might be looking for something to do. So, why don't we bring them into Jersey? Yeah. So
totally,
cause I played around. I'm like, do we host a meetup? Do we host a happy hour? And I thought the most impactful thing that we could have done for our members is to actually bring them into our state. So, so the Sunday before we had hosted we called it Don't Fear the River, South Jersey brewery tour. And we visited 3 of our member breweries. We had 25 people on the tour, which was great.
Nice.
Yeah. And,
which breweries? It was Double Nickel there.
So what we wanted initially was to fill 2 buses, and be able to visit all 6 of our member breweries that are in the area. Again, just trying to gauge how people were coming in. We were only able to fill the 1 bus, but we were still able to in different ways support our other members. Like we bought, we purchased beers for the bus from our other members. So like we were able to kind of at least be like, hey, I'm sorry we're not coming. But yeah, so we did, we started at Tonewood at their Oakland location.
Cool.
We then went to Kings Road in Haddonfield and then ended at Brewery 33 in Riverton.
Yeah.
Oh, Riverton. I always get the town wrong. But no, it was great. We it included in the tour was a Taylor pork roll, egg and cheese. I was like, I forgot. I'm back in Philly. I have to remember. Pork roll, egg and cheese, which everyone loved. It was a weird hit. People were like, I get it. I'm like, yeah, me too. Because I didn't grow up in New Jersey. So first time I had it too, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is our delicacy. I could get down. But yeah, so we hit Tonewood and then we had breakfast sandwiches delivered. Everyone got a beer included at each of the stops that we went in. Everyone bought beers afterward too. We ended up, I think the tour lasted an extra hour. It was where we had people from Japan, we had Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Czech Republic, which was great. And every Czech, they'd order a Czech Pilsner. I'm like, how is it? I'm like, so? And they're like, pretty good. And I think that's a great, considering it's where you're from. But yeah, no, it was awesome. It was a rainy day. The weather sucked.
It was a weird day. Cause it was nice. Wasn't it nice in the afternoon and then it started pouring or something. It was funky.
It was the opposite. It was as we were about to leave the Brewery 33. It was maybe 20 minutes before the bus was about to leave, and the sun comes out. Come on, especially because at least Kings Road and Brewery 33 have nice outdoor areas that would have been nice to hang out in, but it was still, for a rainy day where nobody had anything going on. We had 3 guys that were just beer drinkers that saw the tour, and they're like, we just thought it'd be fun to go. I'm like, that's awesome. So, it was nice to also be able to engage people that were already interested in beer in New Jersey. So it was awesome. I saw them at the conference the whole time. I was like, hey guys. So
it's nice that brewers that aren't directly in the city or right downtown still got the benefit from people coming around.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something my boyfriend and I talked with, because he came on the tour with me afterward. And he was like, when you first were talking about what you wanted to do, I thought that your best move would have been working with a bar in Philly and, figuring out how many beers from New Jersey you would be able to get on tap and everything. And the paperwork headache of that just sounded enough for me. I was like, that's, he goes, no, but after doing the tour and seeing how happy everyone was hanging out, it was just everybody knew each other for years.
Yeah.
And seeing that and getting people into our state, that was the goal. It wasn't meant to be a huge moneymaker for the guild. It was meant to, maybe cover me going out there. But the goal was to support the breweries that wouldn't see a slightly busier Sunday, even for an hour, and see the benefit from the conference. So it was a huge win. I'm like, I can't wait to do the next one. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to do one in San Antonio, but not possible. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we went to a bunch of events in Center City.
Cool.
And I thought it was really nice for those bars that are never busy on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday to actually get this huge influx, and they know it's from the craft beer crowd bringing that in.
Yeah.
So it gives them oh wait, craft beer is spending money here. Kind of give us a little boost. I thought the CBC went great. I thought everything was very smooth about it.
I thought it was great, and honestly, I think the one thing that a few people I've talked to felt is. CBC last year was my first time ever going. So I'd never gone to CBC before because we're really, as a taproom manager, marketing person, the money wasn't worth to be spent. But from last year to this year, I don't know about in your opinion, I'd love to hear your feedback, but the overall, what felt like last year, that doom and gloom
That's what Richie's been
of oh man, this sucks. Breweries are closing now more than ever. What are we doing here was a huge, that felt for me like a huge weight that I felt leaving CBC last year. This year, it felt just a lighter, almost I don't want to say a complete renaissance, because I say that a lot when it comes to the beer industry, but I don't know, people felt more optimistic, more wanting to be engaged, more wanting to come out, which just made the time so much more enjoyable too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave and Fonte talked about that, about it was kind of positive vibes only,
yeah,
whether it's fake or not, Bart Watson, the head of the BA, was basically saying like, hey, whether there's good or bad, let's act like it's good to kind of like show customers that it is. But I think in the last 6 months, like it's not like I'm putting on a face. I'm starting a lot more beer. I think a lot of it is there's just people drinking more. There's people drinking more. There's people getting back into craft beer. I think craft beer is like turning a page, kind of going into the summer. I think craft beer now is in a good spot compared to where it was the last 2 years.
Oh, I mean, even just, the data that we have is, just based on like our membership, right?
Yeah.
Last year with the amount of breweries that closed, I mean, just in the state, outside of, in throughout the whole country, it felt like, oh man, this is feeling a little overwhelming.
And in the last 2 months, the big news for breweries weren't this brewery's closing. I mean, 21st Amendment closed, but it got bought. Stones, the big news is like these breweries are selling and they're getting bought. And it's not for $1 billion like Ballast Point was, but it's still, people are buying breweries. There's now a market for brands again, which means that, people are willing to spend money on alcohol brands.
Yeah, and I think
which is good for us.
A big conversation. So most of my time when I'm at CBC is, being on the trade floor because we're trying to, engage with new industry partners. And
Sure.
Hey, listen, here's what we're doing. Hey, New Jersey's showing up finally. But also, most of my time and my most valuable time is spent, every morning I had an hour and 45 minutes with other guild leaders throughout the country.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And so we, throughout, that hour and a half, 2 of the days had like, here's what we're focusing on our topics with. And then the last day was just open forum. And it was used for a lot of newer guild leaders like myself. Mm-hmm. And, I've been very lucky. I've been taken under the wing by like, Paul Leone from New York State and, and Jamie and all of their crew, Mary from Ohio, Shawnee from Colorado. They've invested in me much more than I could ever think. Texas, especially to the Texas Brewers Guild. But, the one thing that we kept, going back to is it's not that the beer industry is dying. It's not. Everything's cyclical, right? It's just different right now.
Yep.
And it's pivoting and like, listen, we had to do it during the pandemic. I worked at a brewery during COVID and, us going from I remember the Sunday before it was St. Patrick's Day weekend or the weekend before St. Patrick's Day and everyone's out and partying and be like, what do you mean we're gonna, there's a pandemic going around. And then the next day being like, oh, Morristown is closing. We're probably next, guys. So then you have to pivot, you're selling to go beer out of a garage because that's all you can do. But yeah, so it's,
Yeah, and everyone made a shitload of money then. So,
oh, are you kidding? And it's one of those things where I tell the story depending on who I'm talking to in two different ways. But no, the way that I feel the most about it is I was a taproom manager at the time, 2020. And, my entire life was spent in the hospitality industry, which, what a pain to be really good at. But I remember that Monday and like hearing the news and nobody really knowing what's going on. And then, hearing like 8 p.m. I say Morristown because it's like the biggest city in my area. There's a shutdown and us being like, oh my God, this is actually real. I think everyone, it's like, where were you when, we experienced 9/11? Where were you when you found out that the world was closing? Mm-hmm. And, but I remember that next day that we were able to be open and it like still makes me get teary eyed sometimes is that whatever that next day we were able to be open and sell just to go beer. People weren't even allowed to come in the brewery. And by the time that we were open, there was a line of people around the block. Wow. Just waiting because they just wanted to keep you open. And like, that's what the beer community is. And that's what I always come back to. And, it's my favorite industry to be in because the community is, especially in New Jersey, even Philly is, we're a little bit of can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. But like we're assholes to each other, like it's always talking shit. We can't agree on what a sandwich is called in our state, but at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to pick you up from the airport. Those are the people that are going to show up when you're like, you don't know what your business is going to look like in a month. And I mean, listen, the tips that I made too that first day, I'll never forget. But no, I mean, I think about, in what felt like the most impossible scenario to that next day, just look at the community of people that each brewery has built. And every brewery has their own individual communities, but it comes back to like the industry in the state, the industry in the country. It's an industry that shows up for each other. And I think we're remembering that now. And I think our community's finally coming back together, in a time that feels almost impossible again.
Yeah.
So, that's my, it's my sweet story. But yeah.
Awesome. So how can we support Brewers Guild? Where do we find you guys?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, kind of.
There you go.
That's the next thing. Yeah, TikTok here, then get there. At Brewers Guild NJ. And then, head to our website, brewersguildnj.com. We just launched new merch. So if you like, or at least like hearing about Welcome to the Beer Garden State and think it sounds kind of cool, all of the profits from the guild go directly into what we're doing to support breweries. So, we're a nonprofit. We're a smaller nonprofit, but we're going to be doing a lot of big things in the next couple of months. So
awesome. Any events? Are you guys still doing the Battleship?
So we're the Battleship is going to come back in a different iteration. We're, like I said, I think we're in a time in the industry where we're really looking about what beer festivals do well and what consumers want to see from it. So, it's a little bit more thoughtful beer festivals. It's a little bit more a niche, or, that we're trying to pivot towards. So we're still working with them. I actually have a call with them next week. It's going to look a little different this year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we've got a couple of events on the horizon that are, unfortunately, I was hoping to have a little bit more figured out by now. But next time I'm on, maybe we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. But
awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, then you can find us at Brewdad, at the Brewdad Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Reply.
5-star, please. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll see you guys next week.